Much to the relief of many deeper in the Willamette Valley, the thaw is on. Temperatures were in the 40s on Wednesday. There's some melting finally. But for the Portland area, that was some warm-up we had. 34 degrees was the high temperature at the airport. In fact, it was warmer at Hood River and Troutdale, which should not happen usually given the setups we experience for retreating cold air. So I'm going to explain why that happened, plus taking a look at this cold air that is re-knocking on the door despite it not being as strong as these past 5 days. As always, I will start with the National Weather Service watches and warnings, which show a winter storm warning up for the eastern Columbia River Gorge, including the Hood River Valley, due to the re-intensifying pool of cold air, though that cold air will not nearly be as intense as it was the previous 5 days, which is why I'm not going to be forecasting it to be below freezing for high temperatures during my 7-day forecast. This continues until Friday at 4 a.m. So for the setup for this event, a low pressure system will be situated pretty far off our coast, doing its own thing while it drapes a front that will go across the remainder of the Pacific Ocean until it reaches a point pretty close to our coast. This front is what's known as an occluded front, which is when a cold front catches up to a warm front. Past this point, it will split into a separate cold front and a warm front. Now, for the lower atmosphere where we live, this is not going to mean that much because of what's happening with the easterly winds, as I'll explain in a minute, but it is going to affect the middle atmosphere, which is why freezing rain could be a threat rather than snow again for the Portland area, despite snow now being a threat for the Hood River area. So let me erase this first and then I'll go on to the So why did Portland not warm up as it should? So looking at a broad view here, southerly winds did progress up through the Willamette Valley through the early morning hours. And then after it hit the southern metro area, it just stopped. Like here in Sherwood, it warmed up above 40 degrees at 11 a.m. In Tigard, it warmed up above 40 an hour later. And then it didn't really reach any further north than that. For the Portland area at that time, there was still easterly winds coming out of the Columbia River Gorge, but that easterly wind gradient did get killed today as I forecasted, yet Portland stayed below freezing. In fact, a westerly wind was reported through the Columbia River Gorge, specifically at the Hood River Airport, which is one of the official observing sites the National Weather Service uses rather than a partner site that is just posted on the National Weather Service's current conditions page. So to me, that signifies that the warmer push was able to make it into the Columbia River Gorge, but just that cold air was very shallow. So this next slide will be my theory on why I think that happened. So to give a gauge on how far up these warm southerly winds got to, I'm going to draw a line of the approximate 37 degree contour of high temperatures. And please do not take this to scale. This is a pretty rough drawing. So anywhere to the south of this red line, it was above 37 degrees. This includes most of the southern metro area and most of the higher hills, even in the eastern metro area, above 750 feet. So, but I did mention that east wind gradient did get killed. So what happened then? Well, around noon to 1 o'clock, those southerly winds went away. As that low pressure system moved east and killed that east wind gradient, it also killed the southerly winds with it despite keeping a westerly wind through the Columbia River Gorge. So that kept Portland, instead of receiving a warm southerly push once that east wind gradient was killed, it just kept whatever air was in Portland at the surface there. So it warmed up from 31 degrees when the east wind gradient got killed to 34 degrees. And Portland saw a westerly wind a bit, but it was not that strong. Troutdale was warmer than Portland, which is unusual, and Hood River was warmer than Portland as well. The Hood River Airport, where that site is located at, that I am citing, is at 600 feet, which also signifies that that cold air in the Columbia River Gorge is also pretty shallow, lining up to what I am finding here in the Portland metro area. Also, when you look at the ODOT temperature gauge on I-84 at Cascade Locks, it only went above freezing at around midnight Thursday morning, also signifying that that cold air is stuck at the surface. And that's before the easterly winds come back to keep us at a colder temperature. So east wind is ramping up again. Gusts should remain below 45 degrees. This, combined with being above freezing for most because of that weaker cold pool, should lead to less tree branches down than the previous two events, also leading to less power outages as well. The gradient should weaken again on Saturday, finally killing that east wind for good for the foreseeable future. Freezing rain should primarily be east of I-205 and the usual cold air dam locations like Forest Grove and Banks, but that is not a guarantee. I'm estimating the chance of freezing rain accumulation at either of those locations to be about a 50-50 at this time. Significant enough for me to make a video on this, but not significant enough for you to be doing life-changing alterations around it. Though please take the proper precautions if you can. I also expect that these accumulations will be pretty light, under 0.2 of an inch, and this should occur during the evening hours as precipitation is ending. Now, if you're looking at freezing rain accumulation elsewhere, like a few models have been showing, I'd estimate the chances are between 30% and 40% depending on your location in the Portland metro area. That chance drops down to 0 once you cross the Chehalem Mountains. Now, for the timeline for Corvallis, I am expecting rain showers early in the morning, and once those fronts arrive, that will transition it into full-on rain as we go throughout the day, tapering off into showers again, and then it'll be dry most of the day on Friday, though starting cold and warming up into the mid-40s on both days, though I do expect Friday to be a little colder because some of that colder air does mix down into the Willamette Valley, but I don't expect the winds to be that strong, probably 5 to 10 miles per hour at the most, which reduces the effectiveness of the cold air. For the Portland area, I am expecting a very similar progression to the precipitation, but if you notice, I do have the freezing rain graphic on for the 3 p.m. time frame because of that chance of freezing rain. As that precipitation does get lighter, though, I do expect that threat to end pretty quickly, with that threat pretty much being limited to a time period between about 2 and 6, and then drying out Thursday overnight into Friday morning, with high temperatures sticking to the 30s for the next 2 days. Another slow thaw. So for the 7-day forecast for Corvallis, I am expecting high temperatures to remain in the 40s until Saturday. And then as we go into next week, high temperatures will be pretty consistently in the low to mid 50s, with low temperatures eventually creeping up into the mid 40s. For the Portland metro area, I am expecting that freezing rain threat again to end Thursday night into Friday morning. And despite the low temperatures being near freezing, I'm not expecting a threat of wintertime precipitation Saturday morning, as I am now expecting that rain to hold off into deep into the afternoon hours, possibly even into the evening hours for the Portland metro area. High temperatures will eventually creep into the lower 50s, but it will take a little bit longer for those in the metro area, and the same deal with the low temperatures eventually creeping up into the mid 40s, but again, taking longer. So that is going to be it for this video. I will come out with another video tomorrow because there was too much to put into this video. In tomorrow's video, we'll go over some of the records associated with this that I've not touched on, and then also my forecast performance. As a result, that is going to be my final update on this entire Arctic Blast saga. So again, that's tomorrow's video. Look out for that. Otherwise, because of the slow thaw out there especially, stay safe out there and take care.